Hey, this is Michael with growthhop.com, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create a pivot table and interact with it and show you a few benefits with this simple example. So in this example I have a data export of some social media performance. In this case it's specifically Twitter. You can see the retweets field here. And all it is a list of post IDs. I don't have the actual post itself, but the post, the time frame, some impressions on how many impressions that tweet got, the likes, comments, etc. And I also have over here an example of a hashtag, which is kind of what we're going to be using our pivot table around. In each one of the tweets, there is a hashtag topic. So whether it's A/B testing or email marketing or growth marketing, and then we have the corresponding clicks and revenue associated with that tweet. So let's say you have this big data export and it's got, in this case, we've got 4,000 rows. You can see here 4,000 plus rows of data. And if I select all of the data and look down over here, you can see the count is 44,000 data points. So if I wanted to summarize that quickly with formulas or creating some reports, that would be very challenging, or at least would be cumbersome and take some time. So let's say you've got this report and you just need some quick insights, some quick questions answered. A pivot table is a great way to summarize data and to organize it however you want in a very quick format. So the first step we want to do with a pivot table is to select the entire data table that you want to be accessed within the pivot table. So I'm going to put my cursor or my selector right on the top left value in the table, and then I'm going to hold Command Shift, bless me, Command Shift and cursor over to the right, and then cursor down to the bottom of the table. So I have my entire data table collected or selected now, and I can go to the Data tab up at the top and click on Pivot Table. Now you can just drop this into a new sheet, but let's say you already have a sheet like I do right here called Pivot Table, and I want to put it there. I'm going to do Existing Sheet, and I'm going to select the range. And in this case, all that means is you just select where you want the pivot table to be dropped into. And then you do create. And now the basic pivot table is set up, or at least it's the data is there. You can see right here which data is being selected for this table. You could always change that if you wanted to. If you added more columns, you could go in here and move to change this or select a new range, and that would be very easy to do. But in this case, we already have our data selected. So what I have done to help you walk through basically how to use a pivot table is I put together a few questions about the data that I want to answer. The first one being how much revenue we earned in September. So if you remember back in the data table here, we have the months of the year, we have also the revenue. So you can see how this data is all jumbled up and messy. If I wanted to know how much revenue was in September, and I didn't want to go through here into each cell finding 9 and then scrolling over and adding up the revenue column, I could go to my pivot table and I could figure out this answer within a few clicks. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is add in my rows the year, and I'm also going to add in my rows the month. So with this data is it summarized the year and then all the months of data we have, and in this data set there's only 10 months, January through October. Now the second thing I'm going to do is go to my values, and I want to add the revenue. I'm going to move this over a little bit, and the interesting thing about pivot tables is it does some work for you right out of the gate. So when I added revenue to my values, it automatically summarizes them. But you can see there's a few different options of what we could do. So let's say you wanted to see the max revenue day within those months. You could do this because the data is separated into days or dates within those months. This shows you how much revenue I made within one tweet. What was the max revenue tweet that I got within those months? But obviously there's multiple tweets within a given day and within a given month. So I'm going to go back to sum. And this is just to answer that question. How much revenue we earned in September? That was $1,994.11. And that was just a few clicks from using the pivot table. Now the second thing, or the second question I want to ask and answer is, what was our best hashtag in terms of click-through rate? So we have all these hashtags, and we have the impressions that was associated with them, and we have the clicks that was associated with them. So I want to know, on average, kind of what was the best hashtag performance for click-through rate. So if I go back to my pivot table, I'm going to need to add a few different data sets here, because you can see that there is no click-through rate field on here. So that means I'm going to need to do a little bit of work or a little bit of calculation. So I'm going to remove, well, actually I'm going to leave revenue in there, and I'm going to add another value for impressions, and I'm going to add another value for clicks. So we can see the clicks, the impressions, and the revenue for each month. But in this case, I want to look at the hashtags. So I'm going to go to my rows, and I'm going to add my hashtag. And you can see what it did automatically is it took each hashtag and it summarized it or grouped it at the month level. So now I have all this data at the month level for each hashtag. But in this specific question, I only want to know at the hashtag level, and I don't necessarily care right now at the month level. So I'm going to remove the month. And since we're only dealing with 2019, whether 2019 or the year is in there, it's going to be the same data points. But here's the thing. For clicks and impressions, I need to divide clicks from impressions. So in order to do that, I need to create a new field that doesn't exist. So if I go to my values and hit add, you can see a calculated field down here. And this is the beauty of pivot tables. It's very, very simple. I know that the formula for click-through rate is clicks divided by impressions. So I'm going to go to clicks, type in clicks, and then divide that by impressions. And we're going to sum this because we're summing it at the total level. And I'm going to select this column and I'm going to put it in a percentage format because that's how click-through rate is defined, is a percentage. And just to show and prove this, if I do equals, take the clicks, divide that by the impressions, put that in percentage, you can see that it's the same value for each one. So that is my calculated field for click-through rate. The second question the third question I'm going to ask is, which hashtag drove the most revenue total? Well, in this case, the data that I had already summarized is there, so I can look here and see that performance marketing, which is like an advertising category, drove the most revenue overall. Oh yeah, and the second question I guess I didn't answer. What was the highest click-through rate, and that was growth marketing. So whenever I did a growth marketing post, the highest click-through rate, or the most engaging from a click standpoint, was growth marketing. And then the highest revenue, however, was performance marketing. So you can see that I got a lot of clicks on growth marketing, but only I got a ton of revenue from performance marketing. So that seems to be where I'm more profitable, or I gain more revenue in that category. Okay, so another question that I'm going to ask of this data is, how many posts did we do per hashtag? So this is another one of those fields that doesn't exist, like the calculated field that we created for click-through rate. So if I go over here and I look at all this data, I don't see any place where it's going to add up to be a total number of posts that I did per hashtag. So I need to do that within my pivot table, and it's a really easy thing to do if we're trying to count something and not summarize something. So if I go to my values, click add, I can select any value basically. In this case, I'm going to do post ID. And what I'm going to do is, instead of summing the post ID, I'm going to count. And then I'm going to change the formatting so it's in a number, not percentage. And you can see here that it counted the number of posts that I did per hashtag. So the number, basically how many posts we did per hashtag on each hashtag was a little different. So in A/B testing, there was over 1,000. Performance marketing, there was 1,400 plus, and so forth. So that's how I summarize. I can see where I was most active. I can see where I was engaged the most. Okay, and then let's see, in this case, let's say I was doing some special marketing in the month of June, and I wanted to look at this data view for June only. Now, I could do this within this data table, but in this case, I want to compare it. So I want to see how I was doing relative to all of this data for the entire year, only for the month of June. Well, with pivot tables, if I select the top left value here, and I copy that and I paste it, it creates a brand new pivot table with all of the same formatting, all the same calculated fields and so forth. But in this case, what I want to do is add a filter. Now, a filter is a way to limit how much data is coming in here based on your rules that you set. So since I want to only look at the data for June, I need to add a filter. And if I go to month, right now it's showing all the month items. You can see they're all checked. So I'm going to clear that, and then I'm going to go down to 6, which is June. I'm going to select it and hit OK. And now all of my data in this table is only representative of the month of June. So that is how I answered that question. You can use filters for basically anything. And this has been your simple pivot table tutorial. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, shoot me an email, and I would be happy to help you answer your pivot table questions. Until next time, thank you for watching.